Thank you for joining the Hudson 7 Drinking Water Council's monthly meeting. Today is Thursday, July the 15th. My name is Rebecca Martin. I'm the Director of Community Partnerships for Riverkeeper, an acting coordinator and co-organizer along with the Town of Hyde Park Deputy Supervisor, Neil Krupnick, for the Hudson 7's virtual meetings. Before we begin, we would like to go over a few meeting guidelines and abbreviated procedures. The procedures are available in full on the Hudson 7's meeting page on their website at www.hudson7.org. The Hudson 7's meetings are recorded and streamed live on their YouTube page, channel page. A link to their page can be found on their meeting page of their website. The public is advised to subscribe to this channel to receive notifications. Video for all meetings and minutes are available to the public on the Hudson 7's website on their meeting page. If a member of the public would like to participate during the public comment section of our virtual meetings, pre-registration is required. Written comments can be submitted to be read on record. For more detailed information on how to pre-register and submit public comments, please visit the meeting page of the Hudson 7 website. Hudson 7 council members and guests, if you could control your own mute button. Good practice would be to mute yourself if you're not speaking to avoid background noise and feedback. When a Hudson 7 member wishes to speak, please raise your hand and the chairman will call on you. Before you speak, please state your name and municipality for any audio listeners. In attendance tonight, we have the Hudson 7 Chair, the Village of Rhinebeck Mayor, Gary Bassett, the Hudson 7 Secretary, Town of Hyde Park Deputy Supervisor, Neil Krupnick, Hudson 7 committee members. None. Our non-voting council members, however, in attendance is Paul Melmrose, who is the technical advisor for the Hudson 7. With engineering, and Emily Svensson, who is the land use technical advisor for Hudson 7. We also have county representatives from Ulster County, Europa McGovern, and from Dutchess County, Brad Barkley. All right, we'll introduce our guests later. So on behalf of the Hudson 7, I now turn the floor over to Chairman Gary Bassett.
Good evening, everybody. After our slight, 2-month delay, I hope everybody was able to enjoy, by the way, the Riverkeeper Gala. I know we were all virtually, that's one of the reasons we postponed, was to be able to, all of us, to log into that. I thought it was, again, a wonderful event that Riverkeeper held. So I hope everybody got some enjoyment and information out of that event. But going forward, we do not have a quorum this evening, so we are going to be bypassing some of the items that have on the agenda, and we will just postpone them until our next meeting. Okay. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to have the approval of the minutes of 5/2021, which we don't have a quorum, so we can't vote on, but does any of the members have any discussion on those minutes for review? All right. We will postpone the vote on that until the next meeting. The communication packet. I believe all of you have seen this communication. We're very thankful for Emily, for what you did in terms of this Carey Institute, and congratulations on your appointment to the council as well. And again, so we had Executive Mark Molinaro and County Executive Pat Ryan, as well as others, and Paul write letters for us on behalf of Hudson 7 and organizations for this event. So again, thank you all. If anybody has any questions on that, if not, we can move on. They've all been circulated.
I just would like to highlight that Emily put in was asked to join the REMAC council and received a letter, and she's now representing the Hudson 7 on the REMAC. Is it the council or committee? I can't recall. Emily?
Oh, that's a great question. I ought to know. I think it's committee, Hudson River Estuary Management Advisory Committee or Council. I'll have to verify that.
Congratulations, Emily.
Sure. Thank you.
We're looking forward for input and from you from that event. All right, I'd like to move on to, since we do have our county representatives, Ulster County, right? We have, I thought Europa is here. I don't see it now. I'm just going to change. Yeah, Europa, you're here, right? There you are.
I'm here. So the only update, I guess, in addition to the draft environmental impact statement comments, which are mentioned above, submitted by, both county executives as well as many other stakeholders. The only other note I have is that I've been in touch with the Hudson River Watershed Alliance. Emily Vale presented at a previous meeting, and they'll be completing a community resilience building workshop with the town of Esopus and the town of Lloyd in Ulster County. And I believe they have plans to complete those workshops in Dutchess with the communities that haven't already done them. So that the ones in Ulster, it's looking to be a joint workshop. It's sort of a community stakeholder engagement process with community mapping exercises. It's usually a half or 2/3 of a day process. And I've participated in a few, including the Fallkill watershed group one a couple of years ago. So it's a really great opportunity for those communities, especially they were targeted to participate because of their membership in the Hudson 7 and obviously the drinking water source protection concerns in particular. So I think that'll be scheduled for the fall, and I'll be in touch with the communities and with, the Nature Conservancy and Watershed Alliance who will be leading it. So I'll keep you updated on that.
And just can I add that Hyde Park and Poughkeepsie will be having their workshop. I believe it's tentatively scheduled for early October at this point.
Great. Thank you, Europa. Brad, how about from Dutchess County?
First off, obviously we're happy to send a letter. As you've seen in the papers a lot lately, the county's been working on how they're going to use their ARP money. And one of the exciting ones really is building a new community center at the YMCA, which has been a real hole in Poughkeepsie for quite a while now, and is a really important project. And I hope some of the people in here will get involved in that. One of the other things, though, and I would say to Dutchess County communities, is that they are increasing a lot of the different grants that are going to be available for municipalities. And keep your eyes on that. With the Fallkill, there was no update on the testing, but there was funding provided through the legislature for a repair to the Fallkill Dam. And then there was also questions raised as to whether we should be repairing the dam or how we should be approaching the contamination that's in Fallkill Lake. And those discussions are continuing. I hopefully will be talking with, I see we have you're going to form a committee on the water source protection program. And Europa, Dan and I have talked a little bit already about how we can help with that. And I know the county executives have also spoken, and we will be involved in some level. That's about all I have, Gary, sorry.
No, that's great. Thank you, Brad, as well. I don't believe there's anybody.
Europa has their hand up.
I had one more comment. I apologize.
Thank you.
Lastly, I forgot to mention that the county did apply for a natural resources inventory grant through the Hudson River Estuary Program. My understanding was Dutchess County was going to as well.
Yeah, we did as well. Yeah.
Yep. So hopefully we're collaborating and not competing against one another, right, Brad? So
Always.
if that's if that's awarded, part of that project, our proposal involves doing a lot of the GIS mapping in-house because as a county, we have that capacity. But, you know, there is the water resources layers and maps that are a part of that project. So I think, again, especially if both counties happen to be lucky enough to be awarded the funding, Brad, that could open up opportunities to start on the mapping part of that, you know, the source water protection plan as well. So to be determined.
Good information. Thank you. Rebecca, I don't think there was anybody from the public. Was there any written comments put in?
No, there weren't. Nope.
Thank you. All right, old business. Yes, one of the you know, options we've been batting around is the funding for options for getting a coordinator for Hudson 7 Council, and with that is the funding. The discussion, you know, the committee came back and said, yes, we need a coordinator, and that was the recommendation, but the committee didn't follow, wasn't able to, you know, didn't have the charter to go forward and determine how to get that funding, although there was some discussion. So I'd like to form an ad hoc committee with that, but I'd like to postpone this until we have full council and we can find a way to just talk briefly about this. And I don't think it's a big stepping stone and or a long project, but maybe a couple meetings to come forward with a plan. So unless there's any objections, I'd like to postpone this to the next meeting.
Gary, Randy just joined us too.
That's a problem. How do you see everybody? I can't see it. Is there a way to see everybody in this view?
You should have a little arrow down below the thumbnail
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah.
Just click
Yeah,
on that
I know.
arrow and you'll see everybody else.
Yeah, no, I can scroll, but I mean everybody on one screen.
Not when the screen is being shared.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we take it off screen sharing, then you will.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah, but then we missed that. But I have a written copy if someone doesn't mind. So the next item was that as there's been several comments about, which is the New York State Drinking Water Source Protection Program and the form a committee around that. I'm really excited to hear that both county executives are interested in working with us on this. So this is very important. It's going to be a 2-year initiative to be able to, you know, pull this together. The technical organization has been formed, so now we need to form. And we've always said that rather than having individual water treatment plants operate independently, it was to be able to collectively work together and form a committee and be Hudson 7 be the lead on this for all of the water plants. So again, this is a subject I'd like to postpone until we have full council, until we can appoint or ask for recommendations and or a chair. And then Brad and Europa, maybe, you know, coming back on the next meeting, if you could come back with more information on how the counties would like to get involved, would be useful.
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. I think we'll also try and circle back with Dan. He was talking about getting some meetings set up with people who are farther along in the process that he knew. So that would really help us. And then once we actually have an idea of the scope of the work for the consultant, then we can more carefully, as we've been saying, you know, do value added work or maybe take part of their scope. That's the other thing that's been mentioned, and replace it and let them do some other value added stuff.
No, you're exactly right. Well, that's what we need to do. We need to be able to also, yes, also understand the scope of work to get that done. So, okay, moving on. I'm going to go forward to the next subject, and then we have some presenters tonight. And sorry, Mark and John and Joe, to delay you a month because I know you had planned to have you on the agenda last month. But if you could give us an update on what's going on at the Central Hudson remediation project, that would be fantastic.
Yep, sure. No specific presentation, Gary. You know, first, I appreciate the opportunity to get in front of the council again and give you an update relative to the project. Also wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Eric Chastain. He's the new project manager. So a little bit of handing over the reins. I mean, I'm still available, no matter what, still involved. But Eric is the lead now for the project. So I did want to introduce him and then give Eric the opportunity to provide this update, particularly with the the work that's been completed to date, but I won't steal any of Eric's thunder. So with that, I'll turn it over to Eric.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you all for allowing us to have this opportunity. It's been just going on 2 years for me with Central Hudson, but going on 20 in the Hudson Valley as an environmental engineer. And I seek to lean on a lot of Mark's experience as we go forward. But first, I did want to give you an update on what we've done in the past year, which includes the hydraulic dredge pilot test. And that was completed in the third and fourth quarter last year. And it showed it was just a pilot test to examine the feasibility of hydraulic dredging. The results show that it is not a practical remediation method at this site due to a lot of factors related to the site and the river. So as such, we're regrouping, and no in-water remediation work is planned for 2021. We're working with DEC to go through the alternatives for the next step. We're actively working with them. If you've looked down from the walkway over the Hudson recently, you might see a much sparser site. We have the modular water tank that had been there, temporary water treatment system components have all been removed from the project site. And additionally, we did some upland remediation work in June of this year. So this was shallow excavation down to about 2 feet of onshore material. And that, with that done, now the upland portion of the remediation is complete for the entire site. With this fall work window not including in-river remediation, we may do some minor geotechnical sampling or non-remediation pilot testing during the approved work window this fall, but nothing has been set yet. So that's the update I have. I'd be happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Yeah, and just real quick, I neglected to mention that we also have Joe Jenkins and John the Surgeon for our corporate communications also participating tonight. So we have a full group here from Central Hudson. So I see Randy had his hand up.
Alrighty.
Yeah, I'd like to know what alternatives you're looking at.
Well, nothing is really set yet. We still have a number of we've been talking with DEC and we have a number of intrusive options in the river, but even DEC doesn't seem to be set on on what their preferred path forward is. So
Yeah,
as soon as
and I can elaborate a little bit further, Randy. I mean, certainly we're taking a look at options, not unlike what we did before, some of which will include, removal. I mean, the decision document right now has a removal component and a capping component. So not out of context with those particular things. But I mean, it's taking a look at, some other alternatives that would not necessarily include a lot of intrusive work. Notwithstanding any of those things, obviously, depending on whatever, we come up with as far as an approach. I mean, the idea being that once those are out there, I mean, certainly those are going to be shared and we'll be looking for, your input as well. So, I mean, right now we're at the early stages.
This summer, when we were doing a dive to inspect our intake, we did some water samples or soil samples there. So I shall have some more data around our intake.
Okay.
I know that was one of the questions before, is whether it came from our intake, but I'll have more information as we go forward.
Okay. No. Yeah, any data or information that you can share is very much appreciated. So
Eric or Mark, have you talked about a timetable for coming up with a plan?
yeah, I mean yeah, I'll jump in.
go ahead. Yeah.
I mean that's the 64 $1,000+ question, Gary, in all honesty. I mean, because we're a little bit back at the drawing board, taking a look at that analysis. I mean, there's no specific time schedule. We would like to get back, and do our river remediation. At this juncture, I mean, the earliest we'd be looking at is next season. So, I mean, September of 2022. So depending on which approach we end up or land on, will probably predicate how long it will take to get it actually complete. So one of the things that Eric mentioned, and I know Randy's very much aware of this because he saw the report, the hydraulic dredge that we tested, I mean, showed that, if we were to proceed with that particular method as it was, I mean, that would have taken more than a dozen years to complete. So that was kind of a non-starter for a lot of reasons. Just did not make sense. So,
Yeah, that was my second question. Why was hydraulic method canceled?
yeah, we found out that it was extremely slow. I mean, we encountered a lot of debris. I mean, some of the things that we found in the pilot test just precluded it from being, the only approach that could be used. And I think that's what, we certainly shared with DEC and the other stakeholders that have been involved, including Randy and the folks at the water board, that said, that was just not an acceptable period of time to get this work done. So that's why we're back reevaluating.
But you're not capable or not allowed to share what alternatives you're looking at, such as capping or damming?
Capping or damming? I would share with you that all of those things, not damming per se, but I mean, capping is certainly one of the things that will be revisited. Yep. I mean, there's already a certain amount of capping that's already included, Randy. I mean, the side slope of that particular site is all capped. I mean, over the buried gas lines those are already intended to be capped. So again, it's taking a look at, whether, extending the cap over a bigger area or doing some more targeted remediation, for example, if that makes sense. I mean, we're just trying to find out with the best approach. Again, that meets the decision document and our remedial objectives, as well as protecting, the intakes. I mean, that's first and foremost to make sure that whatever we do as we proceed, I mean, that's on the forefront of our minds.
You know that we've been in contact with Dr. Chant from Rutgers, and if he can be of any help to you guys, I would more than happy to, hire him to do that. So feel free to call him at any time and, see what happens. If he can, give you some ideas.
Okay, no, it's fair enough. I appreciate it. I see a hand from Paul.
Hi, Paul.
Mark and Eric, I was just wondering, have you done any coordination with the firms that are planning to lay a cable in the Hudson River? It's the Champlain Hudson Power Express project, and then RISE is also proposing. Have you made any coordination with it?
I can tell you, I passed along, Randy teed this up actually. So I did pass along that information. I mean, I haven't coordinated directly with any of those folks. I would suggest you that there's probably other parties within our organization that may be, and have been made aware of that. So, yep, it's on the radar screen. I mean, they haven't put it on my radar screen. So, the folks internally very much know about our project. So I passed along that route, Randy. So I appreciate the information.
Their comment to us is that they're going to cut across the river around your site, and they're not going to be going near it. So
That's what you've been told?
That's what I was told.
Okay.
Well, it'll be worth us reaching out internally just to verify that or see what else we can find. So thank you for bringing it up.
Neil.
Hi, Neil.
I'm just raising my hand on behalf of Brad, who's had his hand up for a while now.
Yeah.
And Brad, you just muted yourself.
Yeah, now I unmuted myself. Sorry. Thanks, Neil. Yeah, the question, actually, Paul beat me to the question, but the other part of it is that it would be very good if Central Hudson's been having trouble with the hydro drilling to let CHP know that, CHPE know that because they're gonna face some of the same debris problems, I would think, and should be forewarned. It might, as you said, they may change the route some away from some of our intake. Sorry.
No, good, no, good input.
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, that if you guys are having problems with debris on the bottom of the river and they want to come through and dredge 8 feet deep with a jet dredge, it might show that they just maybe can't do that. So it'd be great if you guys could open communication.
Yeah, I mean, and just to be clear about some of the debris that we were encountering, I mean, that was relatively close in proximity to the shoreline. I mean, we are aware that back in the day, it was not uncommon for materials, even construction-related materials and stuff like that, found their way, good, bad, or indifferently, into the river. So a lot of the debris that we were encountering, I mean, bricks, I mean, you name it. I mean, pieces of cable, anchors. So yeah, I mean, it's a great point. Again, not knowing exactly where that finds itself, but yeah, it's not uncommon to find all kinds of debris on the bottom of that river in a bunch of different places.
Well, and that's the thing, is they're trying to stay fairly shallow for their operation. And, you know, I think they're going to hit a lot of the same debris. And if they're not ready for it, that's not good.
Nope, fair enough.
Can you share with us what you found? I mean, I don't recall seeing that in the report, but I mean, it might be good for us to share that with them.
Sure. The debris, the types of debris that were found include wire, that like stranded wire, cables, bricks, larger block, some cobbles, wood. So things that are not quite so easy to hydrovac up.
Any chance you could send me that through an email? I'd love to have a little thing I can forward.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions for our Eric Mark company? All right, thank you. We're anxious to hear how this evolves and where it goes. So, and any involvement that you have with Chippy or any of their cable companies that are now proposing to use the Hudson River communications.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay.
Um,
I'm going to back up a little bit. We now do have a
Wait,
quorum.
Gary, one quick question.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Eric, have you shared your contact info with Randy? If you're just coming in new, you might have already been in touch. I'm just raising it in the case.
Oh yeah, we've been.
We don't have it.
Plenty times.
Okay, great.
I got
Thanks.
it all.
Thank you. Great consideration. Thank you. And thank you all for your time.
Yep, thank you.
All right, thank you all. All right, so I'm going to back up a little bit. We
Hey,
do
guys.
have a quorum now. Jay Baisley has joined us. Welcome, Jay.
Good afternoon. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. What I'd like to do, if we have time at the end, I'll go back through to this subject matters to be able to try to address some of them. But I'd like to just keep going forward through the agenda as we have, and we'll pick up if we have time. So the next thing on the agenda was to talk about Chippy a little bit. We've had a subcommittee that's been meeting, and we've met with several other outside parties, and I'd like Emily, who is now the chair of the Chippy Committee for Hudson Council, to give us an update.
Sure. So we do have a quorum now?
Yes, we do.
Oh, great. Okay, yeah, because I had a couple things that I was hoping we could potentially vote on. So yeah, essentially we've been meeting, trying to work through what our role is and what assistance we need, and how to what recommendations to make to the council. We did, as a committee, meet with 2 potential attorneys who could help us on a pro bono basis, which means without pay, which is good because we don't have any money. And so we would like to recommend to the council that we ask the firm Grant and Lyons, John Lyons, to help us. We met with John and his associate Kim a couple days ago, and they don't have like a ton of time to give us, but they have a ton of expertise. And so we think that, since this is sort of a long-term project, we could really benefit from their experience and advice. So is that something we ought to vote on, Gary?
Yes, I think we should.
Yeah, I think so. So I am not a voting member, but if a voting member would like to suggest that.
So I'd like to make the motion that we use Grandin Lyons as our attorney representation on the Chippy project. So we have a second.
I second.
Thank you, Randy. All right, any other discussion? Jay and Neil, I mean, yeah, and obviously you weren't there for the discussions. So if you have any questions about.
Gary, can I just say quickly that they're excellent firm. Worked with them before on a number of different issues, and we don't vote on these, but you have really good people.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. All right, so no other discussion with the voting members.
Gary,
Oh.
Gary, can you just add to your thing that we're going to do it pro bono?
Sure, we can. I would definitely amend that. All right, so the amended recommendation is that we approve Grant and Lyons as our attorney representation for the Chippy project pro bono.
And I'll revise my second.
Thank you, Randy. All right. I don't like. All right, so voting members, just, Jay, you're not on camera, but if you yell loud enough to say, raise your hand and say aye. Approved, aye.
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 Very good. All right. So approved. Emily,
Super. Yeah, I think they'll be really, really helpful to us. So
Emily, will you reach out to them, or do you want us to reach out to them?
yeah, I can do that. Yep. And the other attorney we talked to was really great also, and maybe we'll be able to ask him to help with a different issue. To keep moving on, another issue that we wanted to bring to the council's attention is that we did receive a letter back from Jen White at TDI, which I'm not, I assume the whole group has had a chance to look at that. But basically she expressed interest in answering some of the questions that we had raised and working with us further to engage the Hudson 7 in developing their construction plan and their testing protocols. So I think what we would like to do is to respond to Jen with the council's okay. And I think what we want to do is ask for them to provide us some more information for us to review and to have John Lyons review, and then maybe we would follow up with a meeting after that. Does that sound right? So I guess I would be asking the council to either by just agreeing or by vote to have the committee respond to Jen and ask for some follow-up information.
So Emily, I'll make the motion, and I'd like to make a motion to have the committee draft a letter in response back to Jen on the qualifications. I have a second.
Second.
Neil, thank you. Any discussion on that?
So is that to draft and send the letter, or do you want to?
Draft
Great.
and send.
Great.
I mean, yeah, I get this, just for full discussion and disclosure, one of the things we talked about was really an emphasis on the pilot testing.
Yes.
And
sure.
I would like to make sure that that's part of the draft, that we focus on that be where we want to put a lot of emphasis.
Wholeheartedly agree.
Did we have a vote?
Do I have a second? Neil? Yes. Any discussion? Agreed. Moving forward.
So one thing that the committee discussed is that, we would recommend to the Hudson 7 that, and I think this is what we're already doing with Chippy, but that all the municipalities speak with their operators and just come to the understanding that the Hudson 7 should be involved in any communications that occur with TDI about Chippy, because otherwise it may be a situation where TDI is communicating directly with individual operators and we don't have the same ability to coordinate. And I think the group would like to suggest that might extend to other projects as well. So we wanted to, I think it's on the end of the agenda, talk about the RISE proposal to put in a new cable in the river also. That's a new project. It's going to have a new review process. And this is an opportunity for us to actually jump in early, as we should. But it seems like we got the information that RISE was already reaching out to individual municipalities and setting up meetings. And so we might want to decide as the Hudson 7 that those communications should be coordinated through the council for projects that are disturbing the bottom of the river.
Emily, I hate to say I disagree with that. Our town board would want to meet with people on their own. They necessarily do not want to meet with Hudson 7 with them. They will keep you informed that they are going to be there, like I did with, we were going to meet this week and they canceled. But our town board would not want to coordinate it all the way through Hudson 7 because it's a group we belong to. It's not a group that coordinates to town to what they want to do. We do understand the interest and we would keep everybody informed of what we're meeting, who we're meeting with, and more than welcome to bring somebody to the table with us because it's very important. But to say that, you're asking us to go through a third party that's not the town when the town has their own interest at heart, our town board would not be in favor of that. I can tell you right now, being part of it and coordinated through everybody so everybody's on the same page and letting everybody know when it went on before decisions. Yeah, I get that part. But the town to coordinate through Hudson 7 to hold meetings with anybody going through our town would not float well with our town board.
I'm glad you explained that. That makes sense. I think that, especially with projects that are going through the river, not through the land of your town, but through the river where it's affecting the drinking water intakes. Poughkeepsie has a lot of sophisticated management of the drinking water system that other communities don't have. And so I think it's, for some of the municipalities, it's a matter of just not really having the expertise at the local level and benefiting from the coordinated effort. It's not an effort to control the town, but just to provide better support to the town by coordinating.
Yeah,
So
I get it.
yeah.
And I understand your side, for the smaller ones, it is beneficial, but for the bigger ones, it's also beneficial for us not coordinate, to think that we're too big to not coordinate and we'll do it on our own is a mistake too, because what one person learns in a meeting or somebody else learns should definitely be shared back and forth. So we are on the same page. People bring up different questions, different things, and they offer different things up at different meetings. So to keep everybody well informed, I see nothing wrong with that at all. And we should be reporting back so everybody knows what's going on. If they're not trying to pair one group against the other group, to make sure we are on the same page.
Paul?
I don't see any problem with the individual towns meeting and also having a meeting with the Hudson 7. I don't really see any conflict there.
Well, I'm not concerned with the conflict. The comment was that we shouldn't meet unless we coordinate with Hudson 7, like they're part of it. We should be able to meet as a town on our own. And I think that we should all pass the information along. Yeah, I'm not saying that there's a problem with Hudson 7. They can come to any Hudson 7 meeting because more knowledge is more knowledge. I just think it's going to make it a lot easier for all of us. I mean, if they come to our meeting and 7 different people can pick their brain, I think that's phenomenal. And some of the same people are in those meetings, so it would never hurt. More is never a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and maybe I didn't really phrase the request properly. I think the concern was more that if the company reaches out to individual water plant operators who don't necessarily have the coordination, not only with the other municipalities, but even within their municipality necessarily. So I'm glad we're having this discussion. We can work out how this ought to work.
We work as a very good team and we don't want to
Yeah.
lose that bond.
Yeah.
Randy, you had your hand up.
I think that we need to do is just say that if the town, if any of the Hudson 7 municipalities are contacted for work in the river or below the river, that they should just notify this Hudson 7. We don't need to attend their meetings, but just so we know the Hudson 7 is notified that there's something going on out there.
Exactly, Randy. Yep.
That sounds really
good. Given that we have representation of all the municipalities on the council, I mean, we have the communication to be able to bring that forward. But I also want to get back to what Emily said, because I really raised this concern with the smaller water treatment plants not having the capacity or the knowledge that the larger plant like Poughkeepsie has to be able to not let TDI overrun them. And I'm just going to be honest. I don't want TDI to overrun somebody. And that was my concern.
I guess, what happened with Chippy is that, TDI sent out letters to the individual operators and asked them, where is your intake? And the operators didn't know what this was all about. It was just a request from the Freedom of Information Act. And they provided that information, but they didn't know that Chippy was going to come 200 feet from their intakes. That wasn't told to them.
Right. Or how it was going to come within 100 feet and the impact. So, yeah, so that's my concern. I have no problem with individual communities, municipalities meeting with them, but at some point we carry a larger voice, and that's what we formed this organization, to have that larger voice, to be able to reach out and be able to have more say in activities that are involved, as Randy just put it, under the river.
Well, what can be done though is once the municipality hears from a company like Chippy or TDI, they bring it to us, the Hudson 7, and then the Hudson 7 can move it up the line. So it's kind of a step-by-step point to move it through. And that makes sense to me.
Yep.
Okay, so we're all basically in agreement that it's more a matter of when these contacts happen to bring the information back to the council, and for the smaller municipalities to make sure the water operators know that, and that they should have the proper communications before moving forward. But we don't need to take any action or vote or policy as far as that, right? Okay. So I think that's all we need to take time with tonight, and the committee can keep moving and bring things back. Paul? You're muted, Paul.
Yeah. We talked about sending a letter to, I guess we were almost tasked to send a letter to the governor and the mayor of New York, and John kind of didn't think that was a good idea and suggested we write letters to high-ranking people at DPH and DEC. Would you want to hold off on that to the next meeting, or do you want to get authorization from the council now?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. We were tasked with it, and then I think we kind of rethought the benefit of it. And I thought we would want to talk about it more as a committee before we decide who we think we ought to write to, and then bring that back to the council. But if you have an idea of something that you want to ask the council for tonight, that's fine. I think we should meet again as a committee and then come back to the council next month with a recommendation.
Okay, but so the council knows that we're not writing letters to the mayor and the governor as they requested us to do.
for right now. I wouldn't say we're not, we're just holding until we have more discussion on it, given the new information. Agreed?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
You know, it'd be nice if you had another round of exchanges with TDI first.
So that's our next step, is to get back to TDI.
Okay. Thank you, Emily. Paul, how about an update on the Silver Creek? Can you give us a brief update?
I don't know if I can give a brief update, but
Try.
it's been 2 months of going crazy, and you know, I've been working with a lot of the environmental groups, and I couldn't even name all of them for you, but I found that most of these environmental groups have unbelievable scientists and environmental scientists and know so much about the stream, but the engineering aspect was very little known to them. I spent hours explaining all the alternatives that New York City was proposing. And so that was one of the things. And no engineer really wants to work on this project because they're afraid that New York City is not going to give them any work. There's no other engineer that has put their name up or their firm up to challenge New York City, except Ty and Bond. So I hope you guys give us some work after we get fired by New York City. So anyway, I wrote a letter and Gary approved it on June 4th. Basically, I talked about turbidity problems, TOC, and harmful algae blooms. And one of my points was New York City doesn't even monitor for TOC or and very limited data on algae blooms. So that's where we were. And then I asked them some questions like, why is New York City allowed to dump alum sludge into a drinking water reservoir? So we'll see what happens. As Randy can tell you, if he discharged anything to the Hudson River, he'd probably be in jail, but whatever. Then Gary and Dan and I decided that I should write a letter on my own because a lot of the stuff I was talking about really didn't affect the Hudson 7. And there were some, I would say, minor disagreements that I had with the environmental groups, like they didn't want to talk about a new water treatment plant for New York City because they felt that if they got that, New York City would abandon doing work in the upper Esopus. Also, they didn't really want me to talk about discharging alum sludge to the Kensico Reservoir because that was an option so that they wouldn't have to release. So I wrote my own thing. It was about 23 pages, I think, and I sent that out on June 16th. And after that particular meeting, I was invited to a meeting with the Ashokan Release Working Group with DEC and DEP. And DEP was very annoyed that I was there. They didn't want Hudson, they didn't believe that Hudson 7 should be represented with them or talk to them because they don't think they affect us at all. Then I asked them why they were allowed to discharge alum sludge to the Kensico Reservoir, and they immediately stopped the conversation. And DEC called me later with Mary McNamara. So, you know, I don't know what's going to happen. The Ashokan Release Working Committee wants me to continue meeting with them and DEP. But I guess I'd like to know what you guys think. Whether, whether I should be representing the Hudson 7 at those meetings.
So Paul, we all tried to get us a seat there, and I'm glad you went. But we all tried and failed to get a seat at the table. I don't know, I guess I'm stymied because I'm just baffled at the fact of why they would not want us at the table, at least to participate.
I think it's great, whatever you can share, Paul, that you're an advocate, and that's a great thing. And I think that's what this group is all about. So, if there's something you think is controversial, maybe you can run it by the group, but I think we can, you are a technical representative for this group, and I think you need to keep going. That's great.
But I think Paul's asking us to basically take a vote. And do we want Paul to continue to represent the Hudson 7 at any ongoing meetings? So let's do it this way. I'm going to make a motion that we ask Paul to, whenever possible, to continue to meet with the Shokin Reservoir Committee as a technical representative of Hudson 7 and bring the information back to the council. Do I have a second?
A second.
All right. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you,
The
Paul.
only other thing I wanted to add was Rebecca noted that there were 1,200 comments that were submitted, which was an unbelievable number. I think Rebecca said she counted 800. So, but about 1,100 were from environmental groups and whatever, and about 140 were from individuals. So it's really high on the radar screen. And I think some of the newspaper articles have been very encouraging.
There were 800 that went through Riverkeeper's action alert. So that was that number, Paul. The remaining number were additional comments made by the public and groups like the Hudson 7.
3 cheers to Riverkeeper for drumming up all that support.
All right. So in the essence of time, we're going to try to keep moving here. We're already at 6:25. So I'm going to move on. We have some new business item. It was brought up earlier by Emily. We have another faction that wants to bury a cable, and we're assuming by the same method or whatever, or a same or similar path down through the Hudson River. And they have all reached out to us. I think they've reached out to the town of Poughkeepsie, as Jay mentioned earlier. They've reached out to me as the village of Rhinebeck, et cetera. So again, we need to coordinate and I believe respond to them, because it's a different cycle in terms of where they are in terms of the process to get through.
Interesting to note, I haven't heard, but whatever.
They haven't contacted you, you're saying?
No, I have not been contacted.
Yeah. So how do we want to do it as we did before for Chippy? If you want to respond, you can respond, bring the information back. If you want to be able to leverage the full authority of the Hudson 7, you can also do it that way. Right.
I think it'd be great if the Hudson 7 contacts them and says, tell us who we are and we want to know what's going on. What's their proposal?
In my conversations with them, I've been trying to push them that way, Randy. So how about I will get back and try to get them on the agenda. How's that?
That'd be great.
All right, I'll take the to-do to get them on our agenda.
Can I just explain one thing to the Hudson 7 about RISE, which is that they had requested, as our other groups like them, a meeting at Riverkeeper. And while they were speaking to us, Riverkeeper recommended that they reach out to the communities as well as us. So that is at least partially why you got that outreach, just in case you wondered why they suddenly were reaching out. It really wasn't deviant. It was a recommendation to them. So I'm glad that they did it. and however you organize it, I think is great. So I just wanted to share that with you all.
Rebecca, do you have more information on the actual proposal? I mean, is it a truly a downriver, or is it more of a crossing?
No, it's a downriver. I can share that information, what I have with you, Brad, if you'd like. And with
If you would, that would be great. And again, you know, the earlier in the process, the better.
Sure, will do. Happy to.
All right, I will take the to-do to get them on the agenda. All right, so City of Kingston letter of support request for CFA wastewater treatment upgrades grant.
Yes, so Ruth Ann Devitt Frank from the City of Kingston reached out to the Hudson 7 via their website with a request for the Hudson 7 to provide a letter of support for their 2021 CFA grant application for funding to upgrade their wastewater treatment plant. And so we're bringing that forward, and we have asked that they submit to the Hudson 7 draft language for a letter.
So there's no action to take until we get the letter, is that correct?
Well, it's a form letter. It's just a form letter of support. Emily, I'm sorry, were you going to say something? I'll mute. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think that it's probably very time sensitive. So if we can approve sending the support letter once we get the form from them, it's probably a good idea. Did we actually I'm trying to remember if we did sort of a blanket vote that we could submit support letters for appropriate things without voting on each.
That's right. And I think it was within the Hudson 7, but Kingston's wastewater treatment facility impacts certainly Esopus, and some of their wastewater, I think, is treated in the city of Kingston. I can go back and look for that if you'd like, Gary, see what we voted on.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I'm sorry. So if we did do that, then we can just move forward.
Very good.
So Rebecca, you can get back to us on that.
Do you want to vote just in case, though? I'm not, just to be safe.
Okay.
Why not?
All right, so I'll make a motion that we approve the request by the city of Kingston to approve the letter of support for the wastewater treatment plant.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? I'm going to modify it. I'm going to modify that motion. I'm going to modify the motion to say that we approve the Kingston letter in lieu of finding the previous vote that allowed us to do that.
I'll second.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. The same thing for the CFA round for consolidated funding application. Rebecca, do you have an update on that?
Well, Paul had submitted a letter to the Hudson 7 that's in the source materials
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
regarding Tiggenbond's work and creating an application and just shaking the tree for the Hudson 7. Paul, I don't know if you have anything more to add. I know it's running late, so I don't know how much time we have to discuss, but that is why this is on the agenda. Paul, do you want to add anything?
You muted.
You're muted, Paul.
Is that a sign?
You unmuted yourself and then muted yourself. There you go.
I don't know much about it, but I can ask Erin if you want to get some more information about it.
All right. I don't have enough knowledge to vote on anything there, so.
I'm sorry. I think what the letter said, Paul, is you asked for the Hudson 7's goals for this year, to review them, to see what programs are available through the CFA grant application. Would you like for us to send that over to you?
Okay.
Is that what you'd like? Because it's your letter.
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll do that.
All right. Next item, we're at 6:33. If you could hang in for a couple of minutes. Future meetings. I'd like to make a motion that our next meeting, our August meeting be in-person meeting at the Town of Poughkeepsie Water Treatment Plant. Do I have a second?
Do you mean the Poughkeepsie's water treatment facility?
Yes.
Not the town nor the city.
Yeah, yes. The Poughkeepsie facility.
Yeah, I'd like to point out on that we do have UV disinfection in our air handlers. We also have a HEPA filter that can be placed in the room to make sure the room is safe. And we can disinfect the room before the meeting, so to make it sure it'd be okay.
Perfect.
We'd be glad to host.
Can I add something, Gary, just quickly, how nice it is that these meetings are recorded for the public and for record. So I don't know how the Hudson 7 feels about that certainly I don't know about hybrid options, but it also allows guests to come there's an ease. So I just want to highlight that for the group while you're making your decision.
Well, let me get a second and then we'll have some discussion. Do I have a second on my motion? Randy, second. All right, so discussion.
I'd like to point out that our internet stinks. If we wanted to do that at our plant, I tried to do that at the last board meeting and it failed. So we cannot do that at our plant right now. We're trying to get better internet, but until we get better internet, we can't do both.
I have the same problem in the village at times with too many people on at one time. I don't have the bandwidth to be able to do it, and I have at the max that Spectrum can give me. But back to your question on hybrid, we as an organization, and we still we should follow the open meetings law. And to my knowledge, I haven't come up with a way or found a way that we can satisfy the current open meetings law and have a hybrid meeting.
I think the only way is if all of the voting members list where they are going to be, and then any member of the public can join one of the voting members at whatever site they are reporting from. And that's a long haul.
Yes.
Mm.
At our board meetings, I've been asked for hybrid, and I do not know how to do it, to be able to make it work, to have people visible, but still participate like we have right now.
I know the city and the town have better arrangements. And from what I understand, the town's probably the best location. The town of Poughkeepsie has very good internet and hosting.
Yeah, the town has really good facilities. I can also look into having the meetings at Ty and Bond, the Rhinebeck office.
We still have to make sure that we meet open meetings law when we do that. That's the problem. When you have people participating, even if all of the council members are there present, when you invite the public, right, you have to be able to comply with the open meetings law. And that still, if you want to have public comment, unless you're restricting public comment. And just recording for the sake of recording and which we do at our board meetings now. We record since we've gone back to the public. Neil, you're pretty technical. Have you come up with a way?
We're working on it in Hyde Park, but we're a couple of months away from actually implementing it. It's not an easy thing to do. And I mean, we could jerry rig it, but as Randy pointed out, you need decent Wi-Fi in order to make it happen. But if we, if the board members, the voting members were able to be in the same place, that's really the only way it works. And then you could still have people, come as guests, and they don't have to be with any of us. That I believe that's how the law works, that it's just the board members that need to be in a place available to the public. So not one of us couldn't just say, well, I'm going to do it from home this week, because then I'd have to say, then come to my house, everyone. You're all welcome.
But the question is, if you allow guests to speak.
Yes, you could.
I'm going to give you a call on the side because I haven't figured
Okay.
it out.
Legally, you
At the
can.
last water board meeting, what we did was we opened it up for public and we set the seats 6 foot apart. We didn't get but one attendee, and it went through real fine. So anybody could attend, but by opening it, that we would have both the online and in person. And when the online failed, it was kind of bad.
Okay, so I made a motion. We have a second. Randy has agreed to host this. Any other discussion on having in-person meeting for our August meeting at the Poughkeepsie Water Treatment Facility? All right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, did you say, Jay, you there?
Jay's here. Hi.
Okay, all right. Okay, old business. It's 6:39, 6:40 now, and there's a lot of old business we can go through, but I think it's too late.
So Gary, that's old business, no actions. Those are placeholders. There's nothing else to discuss tonight.
Yeah, all right. Well, I was wondering if somebody had somebody on one of those subjects, but
Did you just want to
Did you
vote on
want
the
a formal water?
minutes? You skip that.
I'm sorry. And
I-
Emily, you raise your hand up.
Yeah, I wondered if you wanted to vote to approve the minutes because we skipped that at the beginning of the meeting.
We can. I can go back and gather it from people.
That would be great.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from 5/20/21. So I have a second.
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 Give me a second. Okay, second, all second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor? Oh, Brad, you have your hand up?
Actually, it's for something else.
Okay, we'll bring it up right after this. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Brad,
Water Supply Protection Committee. We skipped over that. You had form committee earlier, and we skipped over that part of it.
you're talking about the drinking water source protection program?
Yes, sorry.
Yes.
I had to get the agenda back up.
Yeah, I guess I wanted more of a full quorum so we can get everybody on
Oh,
board.
okay.
What we go with that. So I'd
All
like
right.
to
I was
I'm
just
gonna
wondering.
postpone that one to the next meeting.
Okay.
And we need to get more information on the scope of work, which we had decided on.
Well, I'd like to have Dan here for it too. He's been important.
Yep. So.
Thank you, sorry.
If there's no objection, we'll push that to the next meeting. All right, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll see you in Poughkeepsie.
Great,
All
great.
right. Thank you.
Looking forward.
Good night, everybody.